I was very pleased to see Javid give full credit to the boosters and to the vaccines and the pharmaceutical side of this, rather than the non-pharmaceutical interventions that we were putting up with this time last year and have done for much of the last 2 years. I think it's a shame, actually, the government didn't put a bit more faith in the vaccines when Omicron came along, because I'm not sure that really these Plan B measures were ever needed. We'll never know. They may have had some effect on the margins. But when you're talking about the kind of infection rate we've been seeing over the course of Christmas, probably 300,000 people a day being infected, something on the margins doesn't really make a lot of difference.
Yeah. And as the government in Westminster says, OK, we're going to relax restrictions now, I just wonder that there are sort of blockages in the pipe, aren't there? There's a question about how far sometimes the government's writ, how far Whitehall's writ runs, if you like. So they're saying, OK, no masks in schools. I think Mary Bousted from one of the teaching unions said, far too soon, far too soon. You've got the masks. From next Thursday, it no longer becomes mandatory, it's guidance. But already, Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has said, hang on, I'm in charge of that bit, and people need to keep on wearing them.
Well, if it was down to the teaching unions, the schools had never been open in the first place. Kids wouldn't have been going to school for at least the last 18 months. And Sadiq Khan, he's a bit like Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland and Mark Drakeford in Wales. If you give these people a bit of authority, they will use every bit of power that they have just to show that they're different. There's very little evidence that the extra restrictions in Scotland and Wales have made any meaningful difference. When Khan kept the masks on the London Underground last time after we had Freedom Day, it didn't make any difference, partly because people ignored it. Most people weren't wearing a mask on the Underground. A lot of people don't wear a mask on the Underground when it is the law. So at the end of the day, people will end up doing their own thing. People's behaviour has actually really closely followed the infection rate as much as it has the regulations over the course of the last 2 years. And I think now there's a growing sense that this really is winding down. We are in the end game. Heavily restricted Europe is still really struggling, both with its civil liberties, but particularly with its infection rate. I think in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to have one of the lowest infection rates in Europe, and will be probably the freest country in Europe, or at least England will.